rise, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Pillar, can you hear us?
Yep.
Do you mind giving us a prayer from sunny Arizona, please?
All right. We could have everyone bow their heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day that you gave us. We pray that you watch over the activities of that we make decisions that we can make as a city commission of pleasing to you. We pray that you watch out for the families that are affected by water issue in town, and I pray that we could get through that debacle as well. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, reading and approval of minutes from March 7th, please.
Motion to approve and suspend reading.
Motion by Wolf,
Second.
second by Hack. Discussion. All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approve of the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Wolf. Second. Second by Stern. Discussion. All in favor of this agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, 5A, engineers report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so you guys should have a copy of our report, I would assume, or have seen it. I think I'll just start at the top and work my way down. But as far as the water project goes, we have 3 contracts on this project. The only contractor that's really done any work up to this point is TAN Construction. Still doing demolition work at the treatment plant. I've been up there a couple times. I think things are going fine. They've kind of done a lot of the easy work so far. They haven't really gotten the big filtration tanks and sand moved out of there yet. But that's kind of something that's still coming, waiting for warmer weather before they kind of peel off the windows up there. Or the removable windows to get the big stuff out. So, any questions regarding that? Okay. I have payment number 2 for TAN Construction. Should have been included in your packets, contractor's application for payment number 2. As a summary, it's going along, as per their bid. They provide a lump sum bid, and they provide a schedule of values. This room was this room was this room was this. And we're paying them $30,870 for the work they've done up there to date. That's 90% of the work, because we always hold 10% retainage until the end of the project, and then paying them the last 10% at the end. So I would recommend payments number 2 for TAN Construction for $30,870.
Okay, we need a motion for that, please.
So moved, Dan.
Motion by Pillar. Second. Second by Stern. Discussion. Roll call.
Pillar. Aye. Stern.
Aye.
Hack.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Obenauer.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
So we're yet to make a payment for the other 2 contractors, but we will be here probably in the near future, and we will resume the construction meetings, the weekly construction meetings, pretty quick. Grant, did you set that up?
The first week in April.
First week in April. So that should be on your guys' calendars, or whoever wants to attend. You can call in and listen. You can not attend. We'll do minutes of each meeting, so if anybody wants to get caught up, they certainly can. And when they start up there, we have contacted the 2 landowners that have granted some easements, so we've contacted one of the 2 so far, and we know what's coming. Corrective work still needed in Expedition Estates. I didn't know of the blocked private service line at the last meeting, but it sounds like they did dig that up and restored that. That was a broken service line. Public Works guy sent me a bunch of photos of it. I haven't sent it to you yet, but maybe you already have those things. But we're having trouble with the homeowners that their service lines within the subdivision now. So I don't know if that changes anything. I know that there's still a dispute between the owner and the contractor they're trying to resolve, but it's just kind of adding to the myriad of problems that are up there, you know. It's, I guess I assume that the homeowner has service now and is, you know, able to use their sewer.
There is some issues up here yet with his driveway partially tore up. The culvert that ran underneath was removed or damaged getting that all out of there, so there is kind of a water backup problem just over to the west. When we had a little spring thaw here and all the water isn't draining with the root across his driveway or his neighbors.
My plan, I guess, was to notify their attorney that we're not having that problem up there, Pat. I don't know if we really can do anything else at this point, and we're not really a party to the lawsuit, but at this point, we have citizens that are using the sewer through that area, so
Yeah.
I'll just compile it all and notify them we now
Yeah,
have
just send me,
damages to add.
send me a note.
Okay, I'll do that. Next thing I have is pre-planning forms for the State Water Commission. The State Water Plan is gonna be due here at the end of April. The last time we talked, we were gonna put 2 on the list. Monty and I will take care of that. We already talked about it, unless someone has anything to add to that. No? Okay, all right, we'll do that. The next thing I have is, we got a quote the last time right before the meeting, but Monty's got a photo of a map of the city sanitary sewer system up there. We have a quote from a kind of a regional sewer contractor that specializes in manhole rehabilitations. We had this right before the last meeting. It's kind of a smorgasbord of different work to do, but they have different tools for different situations. So within their quote, we requested this quote from them because of some of the problems that are kind of happening in isolated areas, but you've got a sanitary sewer lift station with, and maybe zoom out a little more, Monty. Kind of on the bottom left, there's a lift station. There you go. What I call a check valve manhole. It's not usually naturally wet, it's usually dry in there. And so there's some groundwater leaking in there, so their scope of work is to, they'll drill holes and inject like a gel behind the concrete to seal that up. Some of the other work that they'll plan to do is jackhammer out the bottoms of some manholes in a few places where the concrete just over decades is eroded away or settled or chipped out. For whatever reason it's failing and they need new manhole inverts. And then in some other locations with some brick manholes, they'll actually coat and line the inside of the manholes from a new manhole on the inside of the old manhole. Prevents us from having to excavate, dig up, and tear up the street. So the quote here is to address these manholes in the map. It's $16,000. What they're hoping to do is to just time it with other work they have in the western part of the state. They'll probably give us a couple week notice. They shouldn't need anything from your city crew. They'll come in and block the sewer flow or do the work and leave. But they want to highlight it. They want to do a good job because they want you to use them. They want you to do 5 more manholes and then 5 more manholes until you get the whole system done. But I think these are the areas of the most urgent need, and Dan and I talked about them a little bit today.
How soon can they get started on this, did you say, Jared?
It's probably a 2-day project for them, but I don't know. It might be a June, a July, an August day. I'm not sure. But we'll know about it ahead of time. They'd probably want to invite some towns to see what they do and
Sure.
market it a little bit.
You said we have 5 of them listed here, or 4?
3 bottoms, 1 liner, 1 dry pit injection, so it'd be 5 of them, 6 of them.
The 6 is just recommending repair.
The 6, it looks like we might add because they're going to inspect it. I don't know if that's a private manhole or not, but they're going to inspect that one.
That was one of ours or whatever.
Is it?
Oh, Grant looked at it or whatever and get a recommendation what maybe should be done, could be done to improve the flow in it.
Okay. So that's a unit price thing. If you guys decide to add one invert, we'll add an invert. It's not a big deal.
Okay. All right, what's the wish of the board?
I'd make a motion to move forward with the $16,000 project with Key Contracting to take care of three bottoms and the other two manholes spelled out.
Okay, motion by Pillar. Second. Second by Stern. Discussion. Nancy?
No, I
One
was
point
saying,
for discussion, Jared and I, when we talked today, because Key Contracting is hungry to get this, they more or less have shared with more engineering that they were doing this for cost. So I just want to make it clear, if we do business with them, it's possible, maybe likely in the future that the next time we go down this path, it may cost a little bit more, so just kind of set the expectations a little. So we'll be monitoring their performance on this one here.
Good point, yes. They wanna kind of make a big deal about it. So you should get a good product because they're trying to brag to some of the neighboring people. And they want to be able to call you, have public works people from Garrison and Washburn or wherever call them, be happy with the work that's done here, so.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Pillar. Aye. Stern.
Aye.
Hack. Aye. Wolf.
aye.
Omenauer.
Aye. Motion carried.
Last thing I have on my list is just the water trouble that you guys have been having over the weekend. Just to kind of back up, last fall, or last summer, this area of town, the southwest corner of town, has been notoriously a problem area of freezing water service lines. And so those service lines, I can't remember how many, 6 or 8 of them, were dug up and insulated. And at the end of the last week, a couple of service lines started having trouble, and Public Works spent quite a bit of time out there doing what they could do, which is to run their equipment in from the house out to the main. Pretty quickly discovered that I don't think it wasn't really the service lines that are the trouble, it's the water main. So the water main itself has frozen, and that is a very rare situation. I had John up here trying to help as much as he can. Short term, getting the people back on was the priority, so we had TAN set up some temporary water main pipe today to serve those people, so they have water service. So the people have service. The next issue is to try and get the water main thawed out. And then the third thing is to, ultimately resolve it so it never ever happens again. We're kind of surprised that it happened because it's, like I said, it's very, very rare. Called a lot of plumbers and contractors today that didn't really have an answer for us on what to do because people don't have equipment to thaw out water mains because it's extremely rare that it happens. Kind of torn right now because you could obviously dig it up and rip up the street and replace the water main or do something like that. But if we dig it up and thaw it out, because of the depth of the frost in that area, it's very likely that it'll just freeze again. Here we are in March. We'd like to think that in the next couple of weeks we'll have warm enough temperatures that the frost will just go away on its own, which it should. But I would say in the next week or two, it's very possible that this frozen water main will grow and extend, and we may have trouble with some of the other service lines out there. Can't say for certain, but if we do, we would then hook them up to temp service until it's thawed out. So that's the day one thing right now. Just if you're with some of those people, just trickle your water, please. If you're doing that, let City Hall know. I guess we can accommodate you. It's a rare situation for this to happen, obviously, but we're working on it. There is no easy answer of just digging it up and repairing it. We may end up having to do that, but we'd rather do that in a few weeks after the frost is gone. So if you can survive on, we hope that you can live with temporary water service until that happens. It'd just be a better product if we, if we have to insulate the main, or if we have to lower the main, or if we do something like that. We really can't do that right at the moment because we have a big frozen ice chest of the ground down there, and it'd be a mess. So I guess we gave the one of the homeowners in the area a business card to please let us know if that frozen pipe expands and they lose water service in other places. And we'll get them hooked up and hopefully resolve it in the near future.
So we have Hillers, you're hooked up?
I think they backfed us through
Okay.
13, so we got water now.
Okay. Oakland's, you're hooked up to temporary, correct?
To the house here.
To the house. Josh, you're not at this point? Okay. And rates are? Yes. Okay.
I've been trickling since rates.
Right. So it's supposed to get down to 23 tomorrow night. We don't have to worry about that above ground pipe as long as people are trickling and it's moving?
Yes, so please trickle for the next few days. Yes, there's always the chance that it could freeze at night, but as long as the water's moving, it shouldn't freeze. If it does freeze, we could put some heat tape on it, thaw it out. I hope it doesn't, but that would be our next step if we need to. We can just do that tomorrow if for some reason we have struggles in it. And I obviously not a very good situation, but I think we'll resolve it, hopefully soon, or have a better recommendation on what to do soon. Yeah.
Well, and the fact that even if it thaws out and we get, come on in, Gene.
You got a meeting going?
Yeah, come on in.
Okay.
So, we still have to fix the problem.
Yep.
Ultimately, we're gonna have to dig it up
I think we are probably gonna have to dig it up.
and insulate it like we did their service lines, or drop it, or what are some of the options if we dig it up?
At this point, it's frozen. It's plastic pipe, so it does have some flex in it. When it freezes, a lot of times it breaks. So the water main could already be broken. We don't know. It could break in the next week or two, or it could just be fine. So we'll probably have to dig it up, and if it's broken, we'll put new pipe in there. Or if it's, at that time, we'll probably have to lower it and/or insulate it and just do what we did to the service lines. That would be, I'm just not ready to make that call yet, but it's something we'll have to address probably in the next month. Right now, we've been isolated to about 150 feet where we know it's frozen. So I would say that's probably the problem spot, but it could grow in the next week or two. I'm just not certain yet. But we want to make damn sure catch where it's going to grow too, right? So I don't want to do anything just yet. Because we're going to insulate some pipe. We want to make sure we cover it from one end to the other.
And I had one homeowner talk to me today about, well, let's cut out that section and fix that piece. And that's not that easy. It's like a garden hose running through a deep freeze chest, and the whole thing's frozen. You can't just fix that one spot.
We're probably...
We don't know where that one spot is.
We're probably going to. I don't think we should just yet. And I could be wrong, maybe it'll break tomorrow and coulda, shoulda, woulda, but I'm talking with contractors and plumbers. They think we're best off to just let those homeowners be on temp service until the frost is gone, and then we can better fix it.
If it breaks tomorrow, is canned ready to dig if we need them to?
If it breaks tomorrow, we'll probably just isolate the whole stretch with the valves and hook the other 4 or 5 people up to the temp water and be done with it.
Okay. So the temporary water services, you can shower, flush toilets. Do you stay away from washers and, washing clothes at all, or they can do everything pretty much?
They shouldn't have any trouble.
Okay.
This is what we use when we do water main replacements in towns.
Sure.
And we've never had to limit or do water restrictions in places. I guess if everybody happened to be using every appliance they had at once, maybe they'll have some problem, but I don't think we should have to worry about that. We don't have sprinklers right now either, so that's a good thing.
What do you guys have for questions?
I guess I just want to make sure we don't keep kicking the can down the road. I think the right fix is to lower the main. I know it's rare to freeze a main, but I think it's also rare that a main is, what, 5.5 feet deep?
So when we measured that water main last year, when we were doing the insulating, it was about 6.5 feet. And so the normal standard is a 7.5 foot deep water main. And I think from talking with people that was maybe a rural section road at one time. And then when it was changed to an urban section and lowered curb and gutter, that's the reason why that water main isn't as deep as it's supposed to be. I don't know what year, I don't know for certain, I wasn't the engineer, but that's the hearsay that I hear. So yeah, I think we probably will end up doing something to that main, but it's gonna be a month.
I agree.
All the freezes we've had over the years, though, is it freezing? Is it been freezing at that main the whole time?
Well, I think, when me and Nancy were talking beforehand here, you guys have always trickled, and there's always been constant flow through there. So maybe this year, that since nobody's been trickling their water, that it just froze up.
Who knows, maybe.
You know, has it been freezing right there the whole time? So the work we put in last summer, all the insulating on the,
We don't know. I don't think there's any way to know.
Next question is, where does the money come from all this?
You better dig deep. I'm kidding. Kidding.
Very.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to answer that yet. I mean, if we did something wrong, or a contractor did something wrong, or if it's a distribution system expense, I don't know the answer to that. But I know you guys have all been assessed for insulating your service lines, so I think we'll take that into account, I guess, when we figure
it
out how to
just
fix
seems
it.
kind of coincidental that when we did the service lines last year, and it's the same thing is happening again.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's not the same thing.
is it? Was it
Well,
always
when we,
freezing
like
right
our
now?
rakes, when we got through the service line and got to the main, it broke free at the main. So then the
So
main
it
wasn't
was right
frozen
there,
last year.
you know,
99%
Was it partly frozen? Maybe.
99% of the time it's the service lines, right? I mean, that's really, really common. And you get a water main, and you usually got these service lines that come off of it. It usually freezes right at that connection point, because that's the shallowest spot. And it's because there's usually it gets a little bit shallower. There's a little gooseneck that we call that comes off the water main, and that's usually the problem. And we insulated the heck out of those spots. I guess all I can tell you is that, you know, when these guys jetted out things, they got out to the main, or too close to the main, and hit a solid block of ice. So the evidence we have, and, you know, just from opening and closing valves and hydrants, we're 100% certain it's the water main is frozen.
So if the main gets lowered, what happens to the service lines? Do those get lowered also, or?
I would probably just hook them up. I don't know. I mean, if they're insulated and not freezing, I don't think we would adjust them.
I think you gotta dig the main down and dig the service lines over to the curb stops deeper also. Because I know the one resident, theirs is freezing from the curb stop to the main. So just, you can lower the main 5 feet, don't matter. The line going from the main also to the curb stop. And it's always been from the main to the curb stop that it's been freezing. So that needs
This
to
year
be-
too?
Yes.
Oh, it is
That needs to
frozen.
be lowered also.
Is
And it
that
doesn't
one?
matter what the past does, it doesn't matter what the compensation of the soil is. Bottom line is frost is getting to it, how do you get away from the frost, lower the line. There's no magic wand that can be waved.
Do you know which one he's talking about, Dave? No? Okay. Because I don't know if you,
The Rake's house,
we insulated a bunch of them last year.
That race
the Rake's house was closed from the curb stop to the main also.
Didn't you guys?
Yeah, there was ice in their line. but did the main freeze and run up that, or? We did find ice in there, yes, there was ice in there, we got that off the main.
I don't know if I can tell you anything else other than keep working on it.
And that's, like I said, I just wanna make sure we don't kick the can down the road. I think we know what the answer is, let's just make it happen.
I agree. Yeah, we don't wanna dig it up, fix an area and bury it. We wanna, I agree. I don't wanna have this meeting again. And you don't either.
I don't know.
And you guys can't go on vacation anymore, apparently. That happened to me.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah. So right now you have temporaries running across driveways, they can drive on them because they're covered, right? Okay.
I think we've talked to those folks that have temporary service out there, so they know, they can drive on them. Yep, and if you have, if some of the neighbors have freezing, we need to know so we can hook them up. And we'll work on a permanent fix here shortly.
Sorry. No what else to say.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Josh?
I haven't spent the money yet, but whatever it is, what was it per hook, whatever I owe, 3,200, so that's money pissed down the drain, basically. I guess I know
Is
I
it-
haven't froze, but that's because I trickled right away.
We don't know that, Josh.
So-
We don't know that stopped you from freezing. We don't know if the ice
I
has frozen that far down, but I know what you've done.
That's money I pissed down the drain. If I gotta pay that $3,200 was obviously whatever they paid, $1,800 or whatever it was. I don't remember what you guys paid. So that's, you expect us to pay that, and
That's none of
Yes.
us have.
well, if I would've known that, I would've took $3,200 and laid it on black after it pays, and I would've had better.
Never know. Hindsight, Josh. I don't know.
I
No,
don't-
we all sat here and talked about this previously, and no, we don't want this to go bad. It's not, we're going off of professional engineering, and that's all we can do, I guess. I don't know what it,
And I'm just telling you that what we do in all other places. We put in water mains and service lines 7.5 feet deep, and when they're not, we insulate them. And the rule of thumb is that a board of insulation is equivalent to about a foot cover. So we doubled, we insulated enough so your service lines wouldn't freeze, and I guess I don't know that the service lines are freezing. I'm not certain. But it looks just like we have to address the water.
any other questions?
I know, but this stuff occurred past the curb stop, like it's the city's problem, and we're still paying for it. So you guys want to do the main, or maybe whatever you guys come up with, so we're gonna end up paying more money when it should be a city problem, not an individual.
I don't know if anybody's saying that you're gonna pay more than this. I'm not sure how we're gonna work that
I'm
out
sure
yet. What you're saying is that you don't want to get assessed anymore.
no one does, no one does.
I know.
We get it, I understand.
Especially when this has been going on for 40 years or how, whatever, 80, since 80, whatever.
Okay. No other questions, we'll move on to the agenda.
I have no more items. I was gonna
Thanks
sit
for
here
coming.
for a while. Yep.
Appreciate
No,
it.
I know, we're working on it, folks. Thank you, guys.
All right, down to 6. No, I'm sorry, backflow prevention, cross-contamination control, BPCCC. Monty, what are we?
I know Ryan's got the paperwork he's been filling out, with his backflow, they're getting more strict on watching cross-contamination backflow. Right now, we're doing what, Monty, comprehensive or whatever?
We're doing the containment, so it only involves the city municipal buildings as far as backflow prevention, cross-connection control. You can go farther and do the comprehensive plan where all public buildings and all apartment units would have to have this in place. We can do that in the future if we want. We have to develop the ordinance. The minimum we need by April 1 is to at least have a policy for our containment program for the city buildings. As you saw in the example, it'll just involve our city buildings under the authority of the North Dakota Administrative Code, and will match our assembly and prevention method to recognize standards and use equipment as recommended. I haven't heard back from Ryan. He did send this to the state for review, but I don't know if he ever did get a reply from them.
Yeah, as far as I know, he hasn't.
So,
Okay, so we need a motion to adopt this for our public buildings.
correct.
Don't we have to wait until we get the feedback from the state?
No, if there's any changes, we'll just have to adopt them separately.
Okay.
A motion by Wolf,
Second.
second by Stern. Discussion. Is this something all cities are doing?
Yes.
Discussion.
So I guess, so where is this gonna go at, Monty? I mean, I guess like water line.
We're hoping to
Like
put
a
it,
water meter or
the
something?
way Ryan talked, as close to the meter as we could, so that you have to do as little construction work as you can. So,
And that backflow preventer is pretty simple. It's not that,
well, it'll be a little different with some of our lines, obviously, but yeah. The process itself, is my understanding, is fairly straightforward.
any more discussion? Roll call.
Wolf.
Aye.
Stern.
Aye.
Hack.
Aye.
Tiller.
Aye.
Omenauer.
Aye. Motion carried.
I think Ryan's been a little busy since he sent that in.
Okay, yeah. Okay, 6A, request of citizens. Last meeting, we talked about the sign, the Alger sign being changed, and we said we would have this set aside on the following two meetings about discussion from the community on the sign coming from the west and changing that. Is there anybody here that has any public opinion or any comments?
Yes,
Go ahead, Amanda.
that is a strong no. I would hope that that is not even a consideration to take that down and change it.
Not even take it down?
No, do nothing with it, leave it where it is. Why
Okay.
would you want to take that down or leave it?
There's a couple reasons why. One is they want to take it down and redo it because the face is fading quite a bit. It's hard to read. You can't read it even when you come into town anymore. I have never liked it in that location just because the way it's set up, the location's great, but the structure is not great. It's set up on top of an existing concrete or brick sign, and the guy wires and the metal brackets we have on there are, they've had to be welded numerous times. The flags get wrapped up in the wires are broke, the thing is leaned quite a bit one way from the west winds. I don't think it's a great structure. I think it's a good spot, but not a great structure for it. So that's why I'm not.
So where would you put it?
Well, we discussed this at the last meeting, talked about they would move it either to the airport sign or out to the airport itself.
And what would you put there?
That's the discussion.
I've heard, is the Tiger Lily billboard.
That's one of the discussions, yes.
As a former military person, my husband served 15 years, my sister served, her husband served. That's a disgrace to me. It's dishonorable to do, to move that to somewhere nobody's gonna see it. Right now, it's right in a focal point when you drive into town. It's great to see it. I don't see all those issues with it. When I drive into town, I can read the sign just fine. I see what it is.
You know what it is. If you're a visitor, you have no idea.
And
Right?
if, well, in this community, it's big military community. I mean, look at all the banners that hang around town.
I don't think the
The
intention
fact
is
that
to.
you would want to
yeah,
replace that
yeah.
with, and I'm not saying
Yeah.
anything bad about Tiger Lily, but to replace that with, that to me is not
Sure.
okay.
And I don't think the intent of taking it down is because he should take back seat to Tiger Lily or anything else. So they,
That's what it sounds like.
but that's,
Coming-
I don't
coming
think,
from like,
sure, but I don't think that's their intent.
That's what it sounds like.
Right. Right. Thank you for your input. I have heard from a few citizens, and the one said I could use his name, Mark Nygaard, as opposed to, he's not opposed to moving the sign to the airport. He thinks that's a perfect place for it, or either at the airport sign on Highway 200, because there you can, everybody can see when they drive by. But he's not in favor of a band or anybody else being put up with that other spot.
That's 100% of what I got. And a lot of them were, do not move it at all, do not change it, leave it where it's at. And 100% of them said, do not put a band up, because if you're gonna do that, there are other people in this community who have done great things, greater things, in some opinions, and, put it somewhere else in town. It'd be great to have it anywhere else. The park would be a beautiful place for it. And I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to all ages, all work groups, everything. It doesn't matter who you talk to. It was 100% do not put a band up there.
Yeah, my husband and I agree. He's very strong.
What is your name?
Kimberly.
Well, I want it for the paper.
Okay, yeah, oh, great. Yeah, Kimberly Culbertson, Jesse. I mean, he knows a lot more about Al than I do, but he's very strong about it too. Where it's at, you can see it, you can stop and look down to it or over to it and look into it. And if the problem is the structure, why not just fix the structure instead of moving it completely? And
It's expensive.
you're gonna spend that money
That-
anyway, putting up a different building.
Well, that's not city money that put that up. That was privately raised funds, and so, we initially built the brick structure that's out there, but not the Aljora's signage. We didn't pay for that.
But if you move it out to the airport, who's paying for that?
Not us.
but it would cost something, so either way.
It
we'd be
would,
putting
the group that wants to do the work on it would raise the money. Great input. Thank you. I appreciate it. We will have this on the agenda at the next meeting too, so if you know anybody else that wants to either give a written statement to us or come to the meeting, that'd be great, or whatever.
Jerry, can I just say one thing as
Yeah.
part of Convention Visitors Bureau? I'm Antoinette Hire with the CBB. We recently had our Minot Sports Show. It was fantastic, as always. And I can tell you, and I have to stay neutral because this is a very difficult position that I'm in, but as executive director for the Convention Visitors Bureau, I can tell you there were at least 5 different people just in my shift that stopped, grabbed the picture of Major Eldon Jorts and looked at it, and one even hugged it and said, I was in the service with this gentleman, I've seen this SR-71 Blackbird. It literally left a lump in my throat because people know about this gentleman, and it's a fantastic way to brand our city. And yes, Tiger Lily is amazing. Jerry, you played football, I hear, in Europe, right? You're amazing. You can be part of the
Well, that's beside the point.
I'm just saying, I'm not from here, but coming here 8 years ago, it has opened my eyes how much talent and specialties that come from Hazen. So I guess as I see it for tourism, as you know, we are thinking of doing this whole flesh peatla thing. I don't know where that's going. I really would love to see an SR 71, maybe where that sign is, or in that empty grass spot of the Congress Center, just saying. And yeah, I just think there's so much possibility for being known as the home of the world's fastest man in the air. And he still holds that record. I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out because when you go to a show like in Minot or Bismarck, and you have that picture on the table, and it literally stops people in their tracks, and then we discuss it, and so it's kind of neat.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll have this on the agenda for the next meeting as well. Moving on to reports. Water sewer. Guess we've had plenty.
Yeah, I think we talked about this quite a bit this evening, so I don't have anything to add at this time.
Thank you, Dan. Streets.
Well, the biggest thing is, I talked to Dave, was it this weekend? Sometime over the last 4 days. The only oil tar we have is in our kettle. We want to spend, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, 30,000 versus what did we spend last year? 12, 14? It'd be double, almost triple. Sounds like everybody is having a very hard time getting tar. I know that's not what we want to hear. So as of right now, the proposed is what streets again, Dave?
We're trying to get Main Street done. I'd like to do 4th, 3rd Avenue, some of the really heavy traffic ones. And Mercer County's still a chance we can get some from Mercer County, but it will be expensive. I still got a couple other places to try calling, but I've talked to 3 other communities or whatever, they've got oil on order and they're still waiting. It's just not out there this year, it doesn't seem like.
I mean, it's, you know, do we look at investing a tank? Mercer County's got a tank. They're having trouble getting it. Do we want to waste money on that? I don't know. If there's a simple solution right now.
Are you hearing that in other communities or same angst?
I can just tell you construction prices are going through the roof, and I would guess that's because material expenses, material delays. This isn't related to tar, but I've got one community that we're doing wastewater treatment plant work, and some of the materials are 49 weeks out, so a year, because of the backlog and supply issues and whatever else is going on. Another project where we tried to get some equipment, we had it ordered, and then the company called and canceled the order on us. Now we're looking, and it's going to be a lot more money to get it somewhere else. So I think it's just the construction industry as a whole right now.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. I mean, it's all falls under the same umbrella. Again, not what we want to hear. Hopefully, we can get some more, but
Okay. Keep searching.
Yeah, I'm still looking and I'll definitely get pricing. Last year we couldn't get paint to do any striping. We have the paint, so we will be doing our...
We're, in Hazen, we've been very diligent about tar and taking care of our cracks and asphalt and whatnot. And if we miss a year, it's not going to destroy the integrity of our product that we have on the streets.
No,
We don't want to go 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but I think we can handle a year, can't we?
you don't do the whole town every year. Do you?
Yes.
Or you do the whole town every year?
Pretty much.
Yeah, you should. I mean, we have some towns that split the town into fourths and do, don't do the whole thing every year, but then you use more product in those spots and finally get around to it. But yeah, if you miss a year, you'll be okay.
We can probably buy a good on Harbor Hank, get some crack seal.
You can try.
Caulking guns. I see we got street cleaners out picking up,
Yep.
sand and dirt. The new one yet?
No, I'm waiting for one piece of wear plate to put inside. I tried to get to Untitled Chapter. He's having the same problem. Can't get it. We could use it without, but I'd rather not.
How long do we wait?
Not much longer.
Okay. Anything else, Chase?
That's all I have to say.
All right, finance, busing, library.
We had I guess, a busing meeting where I guess a lot of that stuff is gonna be under, I guess, under the old business and new business, so.
Okay, sounds good. Police, fire, forestry.
I have nothing at this time.
Any status on the old police vehicle and getting rid of that?
One of our issues with the 2016 again here that they just had repaired, so.
Really?
So as of now, it's still sitting back there for parts.
Parts, okay. Buster, HCD.
I'm gonna get up here closer.
You want to touch base on our meeting we had?
Yeah, I want to, so Dan can hear me. I've got a couple of things to report on. One is that this is kind of a request for the public works or the city or whatever, but you know, since they took the dike down over on 3rd Street, and you know, from 5th to 9th, there's lots of little kids over there now in that area, you know, lots of young families. And they like heading to the park. And you know, we have a number of folks, and I'm not necessarily going to say the folks that live there, but we have a lot of higher end traffic that's coming through there at times, I think. Potentially some speeders. And I'm wondering if we wouldn't probably just put up some of those little yellow kids at play signage out there on the yards. I think the parents wouldn't have a problem with it sitting in their yard or whatever, to maybe slow some of that traffic down. Because, you know, there are no sidewalks there. Ideally, of course, sidewalks would be the best thing, but there are no sidewalks there, and the homeowners aren't gonna wanna put sidewalks in, you know? And if we're gonna, and I'm assuming if we're gonna continue to keep the park where it's at, and like.
They just redid it a year
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, and like I said, you know, all of those, that whole my old neighborhood, it's got lots of young kids in it, which is great. But I think we just might want to be a little, take a look at it and see what we can do.
Well, Buster, I like that idea. Thank you for not coming and saying, can we put another stop sign in? Can we lower the speed limit? Can we have the cops sit on the corner? I think that's a nice way to start and take a look at that. You know, start small and.
Because you know, when I drive around and see those things, you do kind of think a little bit, you know, about that.
And there are a lot of kids on the streets
Oh,
over there.
absolutely.
I know.
And the other thing about it is it's not necessarily the kids that are always going to the park. We've got kids that are out there playing hockey on the street, you know, that type of thing too. And especially now, when it's nice, with their bicycles, scooting up and down. So anyway, enough of that. Just a little update on some of the grant stuff that we're doing. This is for the natural gas grant that has to be submitted by the 31st of the month. We're going to do a 10 million ask, okay? We're probably going to end up, at one time they had said that our allocation for this area was 5. We're doing 10, hoping that we could possibly get it maybe a little bit more. They see, you know, where it's at and some of the need. The app, of course, is fairly lengthy again, but being done, I think, very well. So it's a matter of, you know, will it happen? You know, we don't know. One of the things to just give
the commission a little bit of a heads up. You know, we, as part of the grant writing process, we have to do a 20% match, okay? So on 10 million, that's 2 million. And we have to list in the grant application where some of those funds are going to come from, the match funds. And so I picked a small number out and spoke for the city of Hazen. And it's pretty small in relationship to the overall get, if we could get it. I said we probably could contribute up 100,000. So we put 100,000 in.
Over what time span?
Well, it would be,
Like one check?
yeah, it would, yeah. But it would be a match of 100 for Hazen, 100 for the city. We have Bank of North Dakota listed. We have some of those other sources is listed. But again, in terms of, you know, if we're fortunate enough to get the grant, that's a pretty cheap number in terms of, because the dollars and the grant that we're applying for is for infrastructure for the pipe in Hazen and Beulah. No connections, just that's what it's for, okay? So, in addition to that, Jerry and I and a couple other folks from Beulah had an opportunity to meet with the folks who represent Bakken Energy. We had about a 2-hour conference with those folks last Thursday. And it was a very enlightening conversation that we had, and I think in terms of what will be coming down the pipe in the future. They have some pretty robust ideas and plans in terms of what they're seeing could happen. And when they switch to the hydrogen at DGC, and part of what they're talking about is they're going to be producing what's called clean hydrogen.
Blue, not green.
No, clean.
Yeah, but blue, not green.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's 4 different.
Yeah, there's, but that's their mantra. That's going to be their mantra. Because, you know, in addition to, part of it is this, there's our area, the Beulah site, is one of 8 national hubs that is going to be looked at for hydrogen. Okay? And there's going to be some pretty decent federal dollars that are filtering down to help with that. The advantage that we'll have up here is that they already have a facility that they'll be able to retrofit. And they're talking about, and that's down the road, and I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail about it, but that's down the road. And of course, then they were talking about, you know, when that happens, the community should start gearing up for workforce, because there's probably going to be a need between 1,000 and 2,000 different employees that are going to be out there for at least I was going to say a 2-year time period. And not all of them, not all 2,000 coming in at the same time. We've got the different trades, you know. But I don't want to say too much. I believe, Dan, you did an article for the paper, or you did an interview for the paper, didn't you?
With this, I'm in the process. I've been working with them, and I'm going to talk to them on Wednesday.
Okay.
So it'll be in next week.
Next week, okay. So I still want to be a little cautious in terms of what I said. I don't want to speak wrong, okay? The other thing is they had they met with 100 of the employees over at DGC to talk about their plan, some of their futuristic plans and what have you. It was live streamed. I've talked with some people who were able to listen to the live stream of it. Of course, the downside is that they're not going to be using, DGC isn't going to be using nearly as much coal as they presently are. And so, and of course, some of what we're trying to do when I say we, with natural gas, we're trying to get natural gas in here so that we could bring in some other manufacturing to help possibly offset some of those job losses that might occur out there in terms of where things are at. The other thing is, and I think this is a pretty important piece, we reminded them of the extraction tax and severance and conversion. And so they're aware of some of that. You know, they don't have a real good working knowledge of how that all came into being, but at least we've touched on it. And so we're hopeful that possibly down the road, they'll also look out for our communities. We're hopeful. Jerry, you got anything to add?
Again, like you said, Buster, I don't want to speak out of line. They talked a lot, they covered a lot of data and facts in those 2 hours. And one talking about, you know, there's the 500 jobs will still be there. Those they're not looking at reducing any of the workforce. So they're going to still need to continue to have employees around the facility, and the expansion, you know, with the hydrogen. You know, I'm a little skeptical because hydrogen's been the fuel of the future for the last 30 years. You know, hydrogen's coming. Here we go. You know, and there are a lot of people that have questions about how it's going to be transported. You know, pipelines, and you know, we ever had people that complain about the volatility of rail for oil. You know, well, hydrogen, you know, it'd be like bombs going down the railroad track. But so there's a lot of questions and a lot of information that don't put that in advance. Just a lot of stuff that they'll give Dan and he'll report accurately. So I walked out of there thinking, okay, I guess Base Electric is looking for a buyer for their facility. They had one buyer show up. If they didn't sell the facility, they were looking at shuttering the facility. And those jobs are going to be gone. Is this an opportunity for at least something? I guess that's the way our communities have to look at it and try to embrace, you know, we know where coal's going. You know, it's a fact. It's just, and you know, I hate to say that because you see Germany building more coal-fired power plants. You see other companies building, or countries building them too, and I think it's going to be under attack. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of politics behind it that is very hard to decipher. But there's a lot of news coming out shortly.
I think part of it is that, I mean, some of the folks were at my annual meeting when Rich Garvin spoke, and he spoke about hydrogen. He's the Director of Energy from the Department of Commerce. He talked about, you know, the offshoot of possibilities once hydrogen gets here, okay? Not the main component of it in general, but they said the same thing. The people that we met with. It's going to present probably a lot of opportunity for other income sources. The problem is nobody knows right now what those industries might be and how that might be utilized. But you know, I think we're safe in saying this, that one of the industries that they did talk about was trucking. And that sounds like that's going to be very...
They did say that they had the presidents and CEOs from Love's, which is nationwide, Flying J, and there's one other pilot, and saying that they want to start hauling and transporting hydrogen through their companies and having all their trucks running on hydrogen. And they are already signing up for it. So those are pretty big names, those industries.
So, you know, it's we need to try to be optimistic about it, I guess, in terms of, I know that there'll be a lot of, somehow, there are going to be some folks who are probably going to be either looking at getting retrained or a different field of work because the tonnage won't be there.
Yeah,
And
well-
I'm not sure how you increase that tonnage.
I expressed to them that we are communities of Scandinavians and Germans, and we're skeptical and stubborn, and change is hard. Change isn't easy, and it's gonna be this company that's gonna try to help educate, and we need to know the facts and the realities of what's happening, and what's gonna happen with our communities. It's kind of scary.
So, anyway, the CEO of the company, tell you what, he's a firecracker, and he's got lots of this, doesn't he, Jerry?
Apparently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Buster.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, 10A, Behavioral Health Summit, April 26th and 27th. I am planning on going. Anybody else? It's gonna be a hoot. Might wanna show up. No takers? All right.
We'll be at travel industry,
Uh-huh.
learning so much.
10B, post-prom committee fundraiser. We got a letter from post-prom for a donation. What did we do last time, Monty?
We've been generally doing 250.
Okay, 250. Okay. Any other ideas, board? We want to continue doing what we've done in the past? More, less, same?
Move to, I guess, move to donate 300.
Motion by Stern,
Second, Dan.
second by Pillar. Discussion? Roll call.
Stern,
Aye.
Pillar,
Aye.
Hack,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Omenauer.
Aye. Motion carried, thank you. 11A, Transit Administrator position. We had 2 people apply.
We have
Casey,
two.
you want to talk about this, or we had 3?
Yeah.
Just to-
So I guess we had 2 people apply. Peggy, I guess, wants to stay here, and I guess retired, yet,
So she rescinded her
yeah,
letter of resignation.
yeah,
she's under-
yeah. So I don't know, I guess, where that we would want to go with this.
Do we need a motion to rescind that resignation, or how does that?
He never did a motion to accept it.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
You just determined that we would post it internally, which we did, and then it was depending on the candidates or whatever else, how you wanted to proceed.
Is Peggy one of the 2 candidates then, or is
No,
that
no,
separate?
she's-
Okay.
Separate.
Does the bus board want to discuss this further?
Well, I guess we kind of did in a way, and we wanted to post it. And then after that, like 3 days later, I guess she said that it was, she'd want to stay here and only do, like 3 days a week or 2.5 days a week. And like that's what the, I guess, that's the hours of this new job, is would entail, but. So.
Is the busing board making a recommendation to the commission?
I would say no. Even if you want to, the busing board, to meet again, discuss this, we sure can.
I think that's not a bad idea, get their opinion on how they feel about that.
Okay.
And come up with some sort of recommendation for us.
Okay.
Jerry,
Jason?
I'd ask, my first thought is, I know it's those 3 days a week covers everything, but on the 2 days Peg's not here, who's kind of driving the bus? You know, who's steering the whole?
The schedules are all done as far as that goes. As far as any other things, they would come to me,
Okay, so you would be the,
depending on how we restructure everything eventually.
Is the beginning of the school year, Monty, is that couple weeks, is that more than?
Getting it all lined up is the biggest thing, to get the routes figured out, who's all requesting services and stuff, yes.
Okay. So that might be something, Casey, you take to your board, is that, it might be listed as 3 days a week, but for the beginning of the school year, it might be more than that. Sure. Any other?
I would just like to hear recommendations from the busing board if they want to keep it internal or if they want to also extend it to outside.
Post it outside.
Yeah, post it outside. It should be on their recommendation, what they'd like to do.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. All right, did I cover that? Good, all right. 12A, transit policy updates. Is that you, Monty?
Did you all read the 60-some pages of the procurement thing?
Yeah.
Basically, as part of our compliance review, it was recommended that we update our fleet maintenance plan to manufacturers' recommended intervals for preventive maintenance. And then as part of federal and state guidelines, we have to adopt a strict procurement plan and follow that for any large capital purchases or that type of stuff. We can develop our own, or we can just adopt the state's procurement plan, all 63 pages or 183 pages if you use the templates. The bus board did recommend adopting both at their last meeting on March 7th and appointing the city auditor at this time as the procurement officer.
I suppose this would affect any further grant possibilities, et cetera.
Yeah.
Anybody want to make a motion, or?
Move to approve those policy updates.
Okay, motion by Stern,
Second.
second by Wolf. Discussion. Roll call.
Stern.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Hack.
Aye.
Pillar. Omenauer.
Aye, motion carried. Extraterritorial zoning. Monty, you want to kind of explain that, or maybe Pat?
Well, I was approached and asked to put it on the agenda. Apparently, recently, the city of Stanton approached the county commission about extending their extraterritorial zone to the full mile. I've printed out the basic sections of the century code relating to it. From what I read, and I'm probably wrong, it still looks like it's kind of a zone of coordination beyond the half mile anyway. In visiting with one of the zoning board members, he thought it would be a good idea for them to meet on it and ask that the commission or anybody with some benefit that can demonstrate some benefits to doing this to get them to them, so then they'll meet and make a recommendation back to the board on if they should think it would be wise to pursue it.
Okay. So right now, the county Stanton and Bueller have adopted it, correct?
Correct. That I'm aware of. I don't know, you know, any of the other cities
Yeah.
have yet or not.
Right. Right. Are you hearing this anywhere in other communities?
You know, in towns that are growing, they're certainly doing it. Yes, that's, I see that. I guess maybe other towns that have had trouble within that area, just outside theirs. So I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. I guess you just have to make a decision on your own. Some towns are, some aren't.
Okay. Pat?
Well, one of the things that I'm reading in this is that the county still maintains the final, I mean, they get the fees, they make the decisions, so that the city just has to kind of concur, or they can object to certain things.
Yeah. My understanding is the city would have the first objection to something going in, but if the county wanted it, it could still go in that extra half mile.
Okay. All right, so this isn't something that we have to make a decision on tonight.
No.
But, so it's, yeah, we'll continue.
Okay. I'll put together a meeting of the planning and zoning board and let them discuss it so they can make a recommendation to you and then it's in your court.
Sounds good. Thank you. 12C, equalization meeting date.
I guess I would ask or request that you set it for April 12th. We have to do it within the first 15 days of April. If we can do it on the 12th, it gives me an extra couple of days to get the notices up.
Okay. And then 5:30, 6 o'clock?
5:30.
Okay, April 12th, 5:30, it's a Tuesday.
Half hour?
Yeah, it depends. If
Hopefully-
anybody shows up,
Hopefully 5 minutes.
like the last three.
Yeah. Okay. Moving down to 13, public comments. Any individuals need to address city council about any issues? Perfect. Okay, approval of bills.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Wolf. Second by Stern. Discussion. Roll call.
Wolf.
Aye.
Stern.
Aye.
Hack.
Aye.
Hiller. Obenauer.
Aye, motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.